Haruka is a lonely boy who keeps to himself, avoiding his classmates. But his life takes a sudden turn when he's transported to an ice sky, a mysterious dimension, where he must lead and protect his classmates on a dangerous adventure. The story kicks off with this boy spying on a bunch of goblins, chilling around a campfire. He steps on a twig, and the snap gives him away. The goblins are on him, chasing hard. But while he's running, he cracks a smile. This is all part of the plan. Next thing, the goblins drop into a pitfall trap he set up earlier. The boy steps out, showing his face, thinking that was close. Good thing I had that trap ready. Right now, he's surviving solo in this world. Then his mind flashes back to the day he first got thrown into this other world. Haruka's sitting by himself at his desk, cause he's a straight up loner. He knows it, and honestly, he's cool with it. If he wasn't chilling solo, he'd have to hang out with his classmates, and he can't stand those folks. The class is full of different cliques. You got the delinquents, the popular girls, the gym bros, and then the randoms nobody pays attention to. He doesn't fit in with any of them, and that's fine by him. More time to dive into his books, no need for friends. But his quiet time gets interrupted when a bright light pops up underneath him. Looks like some kind of summoning circle is showing up under the students. For a second, Haruka gets hyped. He knows this means an ice sky adventure is coming. Then it hits him. He's been getting way too much screen time for a loner. And if there's one thing he knows about Ice Sky, it's that things are about to go sideways for him. He's not gonna be some casualty before GTA 6 drops though. While the portal's still loading, he makes a break for the door, trying to dip out. But the door's locked tight with magic, and no matter how hard he pushes, there's no getting out. The portal's almost fully loaded now, and his classmates start fading away, getting pulled into it. Haruka, not down for this ride, makes a last-ditch move and crawls up into the ceiling vents, hoping to hide until it blows over. He sneaks his way into the roof of the classroom, thinking he's in the clear. But right when he's feeling safe, the summoning circle tracks him down through the roof and pulls him in anyway. Sucks he couldn't stay on Earth, but he figures some fat king or cute princess is gonna pop up, asking for help or something. But that's not what happens. Instead, Haruka sees this bald old guy freaking out, waving his arms around like crazy when he spots him. Turns out, the old man's some kind of supreme being, the one who was behind the whole summoning. He's already sent the rest of Haruka's classmates to the other world. But since Haruka pulled that ceiling stunt, his summoning got delayed. Now the old dude's in a rush to send Haruka off before he gets in trouble for messing things up. The supreme being tells Haruka he's gonna get some abilities to help him in the other world. But there's a catch: he showed up late, and all the good abilities have already been picked. What's left? A bunch of throwaway skills nobody wanted. We're talking Minecraft villager abilities, gambling dice, contact lenses, and a stick, among others. To top it off, he can only pick a few. Haruka loses it, going off on the old man for dragging him into this mess and leaving him with garbage abilities. The old man knows he messed up, but he ain't about to let some high school kid scream at him like that. So he tells Haruka, fine, you can have all the leftover skills, but I don't want to see your face around here again. Then without warning, he teleports Haruka straight into the other world. Now, having more skills than most sounds nice, but it's not much help when you're dumped in the middle of the woods with no gear. Haruka's never survived in the wild before, and he's got nothing to work with. Then he spots a pouch on the ground. Turns out it's tied to the Minecraft villager skill, and it lets him store unlimited items in his inventory. Luckily, there's some starter gear inside, so at least he's not totally screwed. Once he's got his stuff together, he decides to check his stats. But thanks to the gambling dice, he's gotta roll a number to get his stat points. He rolls the dice, lands on an M, and has no clue what it means. Whatever, he throws all his M points into his luck stat, figuring it can't hurt. To his surprise, when he checks his stat window, his luck stat is maxed out. Now he's kinda wishing he used it on something else. As he keeps scrolling through his stats, he realizes, besides the trash skills, he also picked up 2 unique abilities. Because he was such a loner back on Earth, he won't be able to form a party here, even if he tries. But the upside is that his second skill lets him force monsters to serve him, since he won't be making friends with humans. Haruka's a little bummed out that he won't be building a harem anytime soon, but it is what it is. Right now, he's more worried about the fact that none of his classmates are around. It's weird, especially since this is supposed to be the starting point for everyone. But then again, he never gave a damn about them before, so why would he start now? Right now, Haruka's gotta focus on stacking up supplies if he wants to survive and live decent out here in the woods. Problem is, that's easier said than done, cause with all these trees in the way, he can barely see a thing. At this rate, it's only a matter of time before he stumbles into a monster, and if that happens, he's done for. Then it hits him he's got that contact lens skill, so he pops them in, and suddenly he's seeing all kinds of info about the area around him. Turns out the lenses come with an appraisal skill built in. Now he's able to move through the forest without getting lost, and even spots some mushrooms that won't kill him if he eats them. He picks a few, then heads to a nearby river, using his bag to scoop up some water to drink. Once he's finished, something else grabs his attention. He wanders deeper into the woods and finds a small cave. It looks too interesting to pass up. Haruka says a quick prayer, just in case there's a monster lurking inside ready to jump him. After that, he heads in to explore. Luckily for him, the cave is monster-free, and it's big enough to be useful, so he decides this'll be his new base. He pulls a tent and a magic lantern out of his bag and sets up camp. Then he starts a small fire using his temperature control magic to stay warm for the night. Funny thing is, using that magic once lets him unlock a new fire skill, and being on edge about monsters helps him pick up a bunch of detection skills too. But Haruka's only got a stick for an attack skill, so he's still gotta figure out how he's gonna protect himself. The next morning, he wakes up with a start, nervous about what might have gone down overnight. When he steps out of the tent, he's relieved no monsters attacked him while he was asleep. Turns out those useless skill items he had were clutch for keeping him safe from the creatures. Even though he's safe from danger, that don't mean he's safe from her hunger. So, he whips out a frying pan and starts cooking up some of those mushrooms he picked yesterday. And if you're wondering where he got the pan from, it was just chillin' in his villager bag, along with a full set of kitchen knives and some beef jerky. So far, that bag's been the real MVP in Haruka's arsenal, and he's wondering what kind of villager hooked it up before he got it. Anyway, now that he's eaten, he needs to figure out what the hell he's gonna do next. So he steps outside and takes a little walk to clear his head. That cave might work as a base for now, but Haruka still gotta worry about finding a steady food supply and setting up some protection in case any monsters decide to roll up on him. Luckily, with his contact lenses, it shouldn't be too hard to gather enough food to last a while. He finds more mushrooms and some herbs almost immediately. But the monster problem's still hanging over his head. Right then, Haruka's detection skill kicks in. He notices something nearby, so he goes to check it out. When he gets closer, he's freaked out cause the noise is common from goblins. And not just one, there's two of them, and they've both got higher strength stats than him. He wonders if he can even take them on with where he's at right now, and starts thinking about bailing. But since he's living in this forest, he knows he's gonna have to throw down with these goblins eventually. So he figures he might as well handle it now while he's got the upper hand. That said, he's not sure his stick alone is gonna cut it. So he tries using a little magic to wrap around the stick, just to see if it does anything. Turns out, it works better than he expected. So, he jumps out the bushes and cracks one of the goblins right in the head. The goblin's dazed and confused, but Haruka ain't done, yet he keeps beating it down until it finally drops. One down. Now he's gotta deal with the other one. As it charges at him, Haruka dodges out of the way just in time. Now that he's feeling it, he realizes the goblin's attacks are pretty predictable. He starts dodging easily and smacks it around a few times before hitting it with a magic blast. After winning his first fight against goblins, Haruka decides that's enough action for the day and heads back to the cave to get some rest. So when he gets back, he cooks up some mushrooms for dinner and takes a look at the club he found on the goblin's body. It has high damage potential, but it's heavy and has a short range, so Haruka decides to stick with his trusty stick for now. After that, he checks his stats, and to his surprise, he realizes he leveled up from the fight he had earlier. Not only that, but all his existing stats doubled too. The next morning, Haruka wakes up, has breakfast like usual, but he's starting to get tired of eating nothing but mushrooms all the time. He really wishes he could eat some meat, but he knows he has to learn how to hunt first, and before that, he needs to enhance himself. The first thing he wants to try is the magic fusion skill he acquired. To explain it briefly, it basically covers his entire body with magic to boost both his physical and magical defenses. It also greatly increases his strength, so he should be able to fight much more effectively. Plus, his appraisal skill was upgraded to level 2, so he uses it to check if anything has changed. But the only difference is that there's a question mark next to all the descriptions. Haruka clearly hasn't played video games before, because he spends a whole minute trying to figure out what a question mark icon could mean, and eventually, he just gives up. Instead, he heads outside for some magic training. As he's leaving, he notices something on the ground. He picks it up, thinking it might be meat, but it turns out to be another mushroom. It may be a bit silly, but Haruka was really hoping meat would just grow on trees in this world, and he quickly realizes he's not going to find any meat on the forest floor, so he decides to move forward with his magic training. He activates his mana infusion and takes a step forward, but with the physical boost, he ends up flying several meters ahead. His body feels much lighter than before, and with very little effort, he can easily dart around the forest, almost as if he's teleporting. On top of that, his dexterity is greatly enhanced, allowing him to move and strike with precision. The first thing Haruka does with his new strength is challenge 2 random goblins he sees nearby. Unlike yesterday, when he struggled to take down one, he knocks one out with a single hit. Feeling really confident about this power, he thinks he can handle even more goblins. But when he spots a group of 3 goblins together, he starts to have second thoughts. He slowly backs away, wanting to avoid getting jumped by the whole crew. After that, he decides he's put in enough work for the day, so he heads back to his cave to practice his magic. He establishes a routine where he spends his days fighting and his nights experimenting with magic. To his surprise, he discovers he can even make coffee tables with his magic. By sticking to this routine, he eventually gets to the point where he can one-shot a goblin and craft a proper table. Feeling good about his progress, he uses his magic to create a gate for his cave, which means he can finally go hunting at night. He decides to go after a rabbit because he hasn't had meat in so long, but when he catches up to it and is about to start cooking, he notices something else moving nearby. At first, he thinks it's just another goblin, but then he realizes it's even worse. His classmates from school. He really doesn't want to deal with them, so he plans to sneak away in the opposite direction. As he starts moving, he sees the gym bros, the popular girls, and even the nerds. The nerds aren't that bad. He hung out with them sometimes in school, but he still doesn't want to talk to anyone. Finally, he spots the student council group, which includes the class representative. Even though he doesn't like socializing with his classmates, he admits that the class rep has always been nice to him. He briefly considers saying hello as a way to return her kindness, but he really doesn't want to mess up the solitude he's found. No one knows he's here, and he finally has the chance to be completely alone, just as he's always wanted. There's no small talk, no taxes, and no one bothering him. So after thinking it over, he decides to ignore his classmates and continue living alone, determined to conquer this world on his own. He spots the troublemakers creeping up too close, so he ducks into some nearby bushes to stay hidden. Right when he does that, the troublemakers hear something rustling in the bushes and figure they better check it out. As they get closer, Haruka braces himself, thinking he's about to get caught. But luck's on his side this time because all they find is that bunny he set free earlier, and it bolts off. The troublemakers leave, feeling let down like they were expecting more. Later on, we see them gathered by the river, shooting the breeze. Haruka's lurking nearby, eavesdropping, hoping not to get mixed up with them. Turns out they're just talking dirty about the girls in their class. One of them even cracks a joke about how the deputy class president's watermelon would be big, even in another world. Some of them shift their attention to the girls from the swim team. Haruka's worried about the girls, but then figures they'll be alright. The class rep's with them, and she'll see right through whatever shady plans those punks have. He thinks about how she's been keeping those jerks in line since way back in first grade. Then, they turn to this nerdy guy with them, Tanaka, and ask if they can use their skills however they want. Tanaka says they can, and they start bugging him to teach them more about these skills. Haruka watches this and can't help but think that Tanaka's being treated like their personal search engine, digging up info on skills and ice guy stuff for them. The troublemakers head off with some sleazy ideas brewing, and Haruka figures out they're probably heading toward where the rest of his classmates are, upstream by the river. He decides he'd rather be alone, though, and heads back to his cave. Back at his hideout, Haruka notices his loner skill leveled up to 2, probably because he managed to stay hidden from his classmates. He's glad his neat title didn't level up, though, but bummed about his messed up job titles. He sees that he's reached level 3, but he thinks his Master of None and Blockhead skills are slowing him down. He doesn't even know what those skills are supposed to do. Master of None makes it hard for him to stick to one thing though. He can do other things decently. Blockhead makes him feel like a puppet on strings, pretty much useless. He decides not to overthink it and tries to eat his frustration away, but gets down again because it's mushrooms for the umpteenth time. He wishes he had some meat or fish. The scene cuts to him lying in bed at night, hearing sounds of a fight coming from outside his cave. He can't sleep because of all the noise, so he decides to step out and see what's going on. Figuring good kids should be knocked out by now, he's hoping it ain't the troublemakers again. But when he checks, he's surprised to see the nerds surrounded by a bunch of goblins, trying hard to hold their own in the fight. They're struggling a bit, and he thinks about stepping in to help. But first, he uses his appraisal skill to check out their abilities. Turns out, they're way stronger than him, so he figures they'll manage without his help. Plus, they've got those cheat skills he doesn't. He explains that back in their old world, his class was full of top-tier athletes and brainiacs, some of the smartest kids in the country. There were even some celebrity kids mixed in, and he's still wondering how he ended up in that class. The nerds should be pros when it comes to dealing with this otherworld stuff, so he's pretty sure they'll be fine. Just as he's about to leave, though, he spots some more goblins sneaking up behind the nerds don't even notice, so Haruka decides to step in. He takes out the goblins with his wooden cane, then checks on the nerds to make sure they're good. They've already handled the goblins on their side, so they tell him they're fine. Afterward, they walk around with him, thanking him for the assist. Haruka takes them back to his cave, and they're blown away by how fancy he's made it inside. He explains it's all thanks to his earth magic and some clever packing. They can't believe he pulled it off by himself, and they start saying it's not fair he's got all this space to himself. Haruka asks what happened to the rest of their classmates, wondering if they went off exploring on their own. But the nerds reveal they're actually on the run. Curious, Haruka presses them for more details, and they start from the beginning. They explain how everything kicked off the day they were summoned to this world, After arriving, they were all confused, trying to figure out where they were. It didn't take long to realize they'd been transported to another world, just like the old man said they would be. Some of the girls started crying, missing their families and homes. The rest of the group felt like it was a hassle, not knowing what to do in this strange new place. But the nerds, being familiar with these kinds of situations, immediately checked their stats and recognized their skills from stuff they'd read in manga. The delinquents rolled up on the nerds, threatening to rough them up if they didn't start spilling more about the other world stuff. Meanwhile, the class rep held it together, even with all the chaos going on. She told everybody to chill and warned them not to make too much noise in the forest. But that warning came too late. Some goblins had already tracked them down. Even the class rep couldn't keep her cool once she saw what was happening. The delinquents and some of the girls were straight up freaking out, nearly losing it at the sight of the monsters. But the nerds, knowing these were just goblins' low-level creatures straight out of an Ice Guy novel, using their skills and what they knew, the nerds managed to put up a good fight. Seeing the nerds holding their own, the jocks jumped in too, and together they wiped out all the goblins. After that, the class rep suggested they move somewhere safer, where they'd have a better view of their surroundings, so they all headed to a river that seemed safe enough. They set up camp there, and the nerds took charge, teaching everyone survival tricks they'd learned from reading manga and light novels. The class rep got everyone organized, assigning tasks, and for a while, things got better. The class started working together and even managed to build a little home base in this new world. But it didn't last. After some time, the girls got fed up with all the manual labor and other chores, and they refused to do any more work. The class rep tried to reason with them, but they weren't having it. Seeing this, more people started slacking off, figuring they could let the nerds handle everything since they were better at it anyway. No matter how hard the class rep tried, she couldn't get through to them. Eventually, she broke down, wondering how things had gone so wrong. From then on, it was the class rep, the nerds and a few others doing all the work, while the rest just lounged around the camp. The nerds were frustrated, especially since they still had to fight monsters to level up. They remembered that some of the delinquents had picked skills like mesmerize and puppetry, which could control others, and they were determined to get strong enough so they wouldn't fall under that spell. Meanwhile, Tanaka had been giving the delinquents all the details on their special skills, including how to control others. The delinquents started secretly leveling up at night by fighting monsters. They figured they needed to level up first to unlock their puppetry and mesmerize skills. But what they didn't know was that the nerds were keeping a close eye on them the whole time. This is when they caught wind of the delinquents' harem plan. It wasn't hard to figure out either, since those fools were being real graphic about what they wanted to do to the girls in class. The nerds took it straight to the class rep, and she decided she had to level up too, no question. A couple days later, the delinquents finally unlocked the skills they needed and thought their twisted dreams were about to come true. But right when they were about to act, the class rep busted in on them right on time. They tried to get nasty and use their new skills on her, but those punks were laid out on the ground, unable to move. The nerds jumped in and used their sealing skills to lock down the delinquents' dirty abilities. With their sleazy plans fully exposed, they got kicked out of the camp, but they weren't taking that lightly. Not long after, the delinquents hit back, launching a straight-up attack on the camp. They didn't care who got hurt, attacking everyone in their path and burning down the whole camp. After tearing through the place, they bounced, telling everyone they'd be back for more. The nerds were crushed seeing everything they worked so hard to build go up in flames like that. Then, the girls turned on the nerds, blaming them for all the mess. They claimed the whole thing went down because the nerds decided to pick a fight with the delinquents. The others piled on too, following the crowd like a pack of sheep. But the class rep had the nerds' backs, knowing full well they weren't the ones at fault. A few other students stuck with the nerds, but things were already getting way too awkward. So the nerds decided to leave the camp. After hearing all this, Haruka feels bad for them and tells them he'll treat them to a feast. Problem is, all he has to offer are more mushrooms. They all sit down and eat the mushrooms, and Haruka ends up spending the whole next day with them, thinking maybe it's okay not to be alone every now and then. The day after, the nerds head out, and Haruka hopes their classmates won't come after them. Before they go, they ask one last time if he's sure he doesn't want to come with them. They're heading to the nearby town to become adventurers and remind him that he's closer to their group than anyone else in class, since they used to share books all the time. Haruka agrees with that, but still turns them down, so they leave. As they're walking off, he can't help but think he'd like to see the town, but his curse skills would just hold him back. After that, he decides to check on the others, since the nerds were worried about the class rep. As he makes his way deeper into the forest, he runs into a kobold. The kobold bites his manhood, but after some struggle, Haruka takes it down and keeps moving. By the time night falls, he reaches the spot where his classmates were supposed to be camping. But there's no one around, and he's left standing there, surprised and alone. He starts thinking maybe they moved camp, so he uses his enemy tracking skills and sees some footprints showing him where they went. He follows the tracks across the river, and soon runs into the gals. He tries to bounce before they spot him, but it's too late, they've already seen him. They start chasing after him, and he's sure they're about to mess up his quiet loner life. Then, out of nowhere, they politely ask him to stop. The kindness catches him off guard, so he stops. They ask if he knows where the nerds are, saying he's close to them. Haruka's confused, wondering why they care, thinking they probably just want the nerds to do more chores for them. But the gals surprise him when they say they just want to apologize. Haruka's left speechless. They go on, saying they've realized how wrong they were, and that without the nerds, they wouldn't have made it this far. Haruka feels uneasy watching these selfish gals apologize so seriously. He tells them it's too late to catch up with the nerds now. They still press him to tell them where the nerds went. Haruka wonders if they can even handle making it out of the forest on their own, or if they're ready to fight off monsters they might run into along the way. He doubts they're serious about apologizing, thinking they're going to be a burden to the nerds without any real resolve. Then, the gals start crying, saying they really just want to make things right. They beg him to teach them how to survive in this world and how to find the nerds. Haruka's servitude skill kicks in without him even realizing, and he agrees to help them out. Then, the three girls become his slaves, and they start following him around as he navigates the forest. But the whole vibe is off. The gals barely even respond when Haruka talks to them. He starts wondering what kind of skill servitude even is and why it feels so messed up. It creeps him out how they help him fight monsters, presenting him with the spell stones like they're fetching sticks or something. Haruka notices the leader of the group is injured, so he gives her a potion. Instead of using it, she splashes it on him. Feeling down, he thinks it would be a bad look if the class rep saw him like this. He starts stressing about how he can break the servitude spell and free the girls. And then, right on cue, the class rep shows up. She tries talking to him, but he's too wrapped up in figuring out how to break the servitude skill. She has to shout in his ear to snap him out of it. Meanwhile, we cut to the delinquents, who are still plotting their twisted plans with the girls. They're gearing up to take out anyone who gets in their way first. Haruka starts thinking about why the class rep is hanging around and asks him to call her by her name since they've known each other for a while. Then, the girls who were with the class rep show up too, mentioning he was moving a bit too fast. They're all worn out, and Haruka notices it's all the girls from his class, realizing it's only them together at the moment. The class rep looks over at Shimazaki, the leader of the group, and wonders what's going on with her and the others because they're acting a little off. Haruka's stuck trying to figure out how to explain the situation and hopes someone else will fill him in first. Afterwards, Haruka lets her know the girls are serving him, but the class rep mentions that skill's supposed to be used on monsters. Haruka explains it triggered on its own, and he doesn't know how it works. The girls though give him side eyes, and it's enough to make his skin crawl. He tries to make an exit, but the girls block him, and the class rep's confused about why he's trying to dip out. Haruka's frustrated because he just wants to get back to being on his own. The class rep checks on Shimazaki, shaking her until she snaps out of it and says she's fine. The class rep's relieved to see her back to normal. She says there's no point asking Haruka what went down, so she'll ask Shimazaki instead. While she's questioning her, Haruka tries to slip away again, but the class rep tells him to sit tight. Bored and restless, Haruka figures he'll pass the time by expanding his base. Using his skills, he tries to make a basement, but he puts too much magic into it and ends up digging himself deep into the ground. Haruka's baffled by what just happened, and the class rep tells him I told you to stay put. He explains he was just trying to fight off boredom, and she helps pull him out. She also mentions Shimazaki told her everything, confirming Haruka was helping them. Haruka thinks to himself I never said that, but the girls go ahead and thank him anyway. Haruka doesn't care much about it though and wonders if he can leave now. The girls remind him he's supposed to help them out. The class rep, confused, asks what he means by home and questions if he was born in this world. He responds, saying he built a home because he had some extra time, but the class rep is sure homes aren't the kind of thing you build just because you're bored. The other girls are straight up jealous when they hear Haruka's got a place of his own. They huddle up for a meeting to figure out what to do next, leaving Haruka outside waiting. During the chat, the class rep calls out to Haruka, asking how many folks could fit in his spot. Haruka casually says his crib could hold about 240 heads. He adds that if he clears out the furniture, includes the bathroom, kitchen, and toilets, he could probably squeeze in even more. The class rep is low-key jealous that he's got the luxury of a bath and a kitchen, feeling like Haruka's living on a whole different level while they're out here barely scraping by. The girls then nudge the class rep to ask Haruka something. Embarrassed, she finally pops the question, could they crash at his place for a day? Haruka's stunned, not expecting the girls from his class to want to stay the night at his crib. His mind instantly drifts into pervy territory, imagining things he probably shouldn't. He jokes that girls these days are wild, and the class rep snaps back, telling him it's his thoughts that are scandalous. Haruka suddenly turned into a hot dog. Afterward, he leads the crew to his home, and after trekking for a bit, they finally get there. The girls are wiped from the long walk, and Haruka welcomes them inside. They're hyped to see his house, and they can't believe he's built something this impressive. Haruka tries to give them a tour, But before he knows it, the girls are already stripping down, rushing into the bath. Haruka is taken aback, watching them bathe, and he wonders if they've lost all their shame from being out in the wild for so long. Meanwhile, the girls are living it up in the bath, and when they're done, they feel refreshed. Haruka, on the other hand, is back in his head, diving into dirty fantasies again. Suddenly, the class rep shows up, snapping him out of it, and she thanks him for looking out for them. She explains that once the nerds bailed, the boys ditched the girls too, and it left everyone in a messed up spot. But thanks to Haruka, the girls are calmer now, and they're feeling a whole lot better, especially with the rooms, food, and baths. She's feeling down, saying she couldn't help much even though she's the class rep. Haruka jumps in, telling her that's not true. She's been holding it down for the girls all this time, even today. The class rep gets emotional, almost crying, feeling like she hasn't done as much as the nerds. But Haruka comforts her, reminding her that she shouldn't compare herself to those guys. They've been prepping to get summoned to a world like this from day one. Haruka tells the class rep that it'd be way weirder if she could do what those nerds are doing. He warns her not to use them as a guide, saying they're the strange ones, not her. This makes the class rep feel a lot better. In the next scene, the girls are knocked out, sleeping peacefully in Haruka's crib. Meanwhile, on the flip side, Haruka's tossing and turning, struggling to sleep, his mind racing with all kinds of twisted thoughts. The next morning, one of the girls wakes Haruka up, telling him breakfast's ready. Haruka, still groggy, wonders what's happening. As he's trying to sit up, he asks for another 30 minutes of sleep. But instead of letting him rest, the girl climbs on top of him, asking if he even plans to get up at all. Haruka gets flustered by how close she is, so he quickly changes the subject, asking what's for breakfast. She says it's grilled fish and mushrooms, and Haruka gets so excited that he accidentally headbutts her in the process. Next, we see him munching on the fish, tears in his eyes because it's been forever since he had some. The girls think he's doing too much, telling him they've been living by a river, so getting fish is no big deal. Haruka says he knows that, but he's been stuck watching the fish this whole time since he doesn't know how to catch them. Every time he tried, they kept slipping out of his hands. Curious, he asks if they have a way to catch them. The scene then cuts to one of the girls using lightning magic to zap the fish in the river. Haruka realizes this is how they've been doing it and asks her to show him again. She tells him to focus this time, and when she starts her lightning spell, Haruka uses his packing skill to grab it. He throws the magic into the water, electrocuting the fish himself. In the process, he learns lightning magic, and the girl's confused about what happened to her spell. The class rep asks Haruka what's going on, and he explains that he learned lightning magic through his packing skill, saying it might be some kind of synergy between his packing and Master of None skills. The class rep says it's pretty wild if he can snag magic like that, but Haruka brushes it off, saying it's not that big of a deal. He only has the leftover skills since all the other good ones got snatched up by everyone else. Afterward, the girls splash around in the water. Haruka asks the class rep if she's figured out their next move. She says they're thinking of heading to the closest town, and that's when Haruka remembers the girls are still on the hunt for those nerds. The girls snap back, saying they're not hunting anyone, but the class rep admits they probably need to level up a bit before leaving the forest. Haruka agrees, saying they'll need to boost their levels if they really do plan on taking on those nerds. The girls get even more heated, insisting they're not out here looking for a fight. Haruka offers to help them level up, and soon after, he's asking them about their current levels before they start training. They all shout out their levels, and Haruka finds out they're somewhere between 16 and over 20. He gets low-key disappointed, realizing he's still stuck at level 7. The girls, bored, tell him to hurry up and start already. That's when Haruka spots 3 kobolds hiding nearby. He reveals them and says they'll kick things off by fighting these guys. The highest kobold level is 9, and the girls think they've got it in the bag, but they end up losing miserably. Seeing that, Haruka thinks they're trash, and the girls start making excuses for why they lost. Later, they all gather in Haruka's tent to go over the fight. He tells them that just because his tent can stretch out doesn't mean it's their new meeting spot. They brush him off and tell him to sit quietly, so he just slumps in the corner. After the meeting, the girls get fired up, vowing not to lose again, and gear up for a rematch with the kobolds. Haruka thinks it's cool they're hyped, but he's not sure if they're really ready for round 2. Just then, the same girl from earlier comes up to Haruka, apologizing for testing him before. She explains that she had trust issues because some of the guys in her class tried to assault her, and it left her traumatized. She thought he might pull the same move on her. Haruka's shocked. Can't believe the girls had to deal with something that messed up. The girl says that he's not like those other guys. He gave them food, a place to stay, and even taught them how to fight. She adds that she'll wake him up tomorrow too, and Haruka decides to nickname her the Fish Girl. The next morning, while Haruka's enjoying his fish, he notices the girls gearing up for their rematch with the kobolds, but the class rep stops them, saying they need more training first. She makes them fight some goblins to warm up. Once that's done, the girls head into their rematch with the kobolds. Haruka's hoping they'll be alright, but notices not all the girls are feeling it. Some are napping, and others are faking sick. but the ones ready to throw down manage to pull it off, working together as a team and beating the kobolds. They're all hyped that the training paid off, and the class rep congratulates them for their win. Haruka admits they had him worried for a minute, but he's glad they came out on top. He's thinking he can finally go back to his loner life now. The class rep thanks him for all the help, and she mentions they're ready to head to town with him. Haruka's surprised, thinking I never said that, but the class rep makes it clear he's coming no arguments. He's got no choice but to roll with them. Later, they finish packing up for the trip to town. The class rep checks if they packed the mushrooms, and when she sees they did, Haruka tries cramming even more into the bag. Once they've checked everything, they all head out for town together. Meanwhile, we cut to a different scene. A guy is running, clearly terrified, and he trips. The person chasing him catches up and pins him down. The guy begs for mercy, saying he doesn't have the skill the man's looking for. But the man doesn't care. He strangles the guy to death, cold as ice. Haruka's rolling through the woods with the girls, keeping an eye out cause he knows he's gotta protect them from any troublemakers lurking around. Suddenly, they run into an orc. Haruka tells the girls to watch close and take notes while he handles it. He charges at the orc, dodging its wild swing, and he can't help but laugh at how slow it moves. He remembers from the Brainiacs that orcs have tough physical defense, so he'll have to bring it down with some magic. He checks his skills, sees he's got this new grand magic ability that lets him combine the 4 elements, a trick he picked up thanks to his Packin' skill. Next thing he knows, the orc's charging again, but he slips behind it and cracks it one good with his staff, knocking it out in one shot. Haruka's surprised, thinking his physical attacks wouldn't work on an orc. The girls are staring at him in awe, and he figures he'd better use magic on the next one to make it educational. He slings a fireball at the next orc, but again, it's down in one hit. The girls are left speechless, complaining they can't learn anything from watching him since he's way too powerful. Later that night, they cook up the orc meat, and Haruka sets up some traps with his earth magic. He opens his map, planning the next day's route, but his perception skill kicks in, alerting him to some folks approaching. He's ready to take on the delinquents again, but it's only the jocks this time. Haruka wonders what they're doing out here, following the girls like stalkers. Turns out, they were looking for him. He asks why they're hidden from the girls, and they say they can't trust anyone because there's someone out there with a skill even scarier than the puppeteer or charm skill. Haruka figures they're talking about the hijack skill, but then asks if they're worried he could be the one with it. They reply they'd actually be relieved if he had it, seeing as he likes Bane a loner anyway. The jocks decide they're gonna go through with it and ask Haruka to help them apologize to the girls. The next day, everyone's geared up, and the class rep pulls Haruka aside, saying she spotted him with the jocks. Haruka mentions their apology plans, but then she flips the script and apologizes to him, confessing she's the one with a hijack skill. Haruka tells her he already knew it was obvious. She's surprised and asks why he'd help her if he wasn't afraid. Revealing the hijack skill lets her steal someone's powers by taking their life. Haruka doesn't flinch, saying there's no reason to fear her. He brings up that when the nerds locked up the delinquents' powers, they left hers alone cause they trusted her. He says he feels the same way. She's tearing up, and when he asks why, she blames him, so he bolts, insisting he didn't do a thing. She calls after him, saying he's done so much for her. After the groups push deeper into the forest, they stop for a break, and Haruka starts selling juice. The girls are shocked he's charging, and one offers to pay him another way, but the class rep snaps, scolding him until he shuts down his shop. As they keep going, Haruka spots a river up ahead and tells the class rep to handle the group while he scouts alone. She wants to tag along, but he's already running off. He activates his wrapping skill to power up his body and uses weight magic to make himself lighter. Feeling like he's almost flying with all these skills stacked. Soaring up high, he's blown away by the view until he starts falling, crash lands, and nearly wipes out all his HP. When he returns to the group, the class rep can't believe how banged up he is from scouting. He tells her about his tumble, adding that he picked some berries for more juice, but the class rep's unimpressed, while the juice girl lights up. The next day, thanks to Haruka's scouting, the crew has a smooth trip and finally makes it out of the forest. The girls are scoping out the scene when Haruka notices he's picked up a new skill, air walking. He tries it out and finds he can walk up in the sky now. The class rep gets all worried about him, but he's already flying high, scoping the area from above, when he spots a group getting attacked by monsters. The class rep insists they should help, but Haruka's cautious, figuring those folks might be bandits, and he doesn't want to risk it. Class rep isn't having it. She grabs him, saying they've gotta help anyway, so he's down to go. Knowing he can't get there by running, Haruka tries something different. He combines his wrap skill with weight magic to go lighter, then uses grand magic to whip up some wind, taking flight. But the wind pulls the class rep up with him, and as he zooms off with his airwalk, he realizes she's hanging on for dear life. She yells at him to be careful, but he can't stop in time, so they crash straight into the group. Turns out, he's wiped out all the monsters, and the party leader thanks him, introducing himself as Ofta. Haruka's curious why they were under attack, so Ofto explains they were on a guild quest that was way tougher than they thought. Meanwhile, the class rep is still knocked out, and while they wait for the rest of the girls, Haruka offers the crew some mushrooms he's got on him. Ofto recognizes them as stamina caps, shocked that Haruka's sharing something that rare. The party's health gets restored quick, and soon, the other girls catch up. The group leads them all to the town of Omi, and the girls are thrilled to finally arrive. Meanwhile, the delinquents have leveled up and decide it's time to make their move on the girls. One of the guys they captured suggests they get their skills unsealed, so they decide to go after the nerds first. But we catch the captured guy grinning, and the jocks sense things are about to get messy. Haruka and the girls start wandering around town, but he's feeling out of place and thinks about heading back to his cave. The girls split up, but the class rep blows her whistle, calling everyone back and telling them they need to hit up the Adventurers Guild to register and sell off what they've collected. When they get there, they're all a little freaked by the adventurers hanging around, and they keep hearing that the boss wants to talk to Haruka. So he heads upstairs and meets this intense boss, who starts thanking him for saving Ofta's crew. Afterward, Haruka spots where he can sell his magic crystals, so he pulls them out, and the clerk's jaw just about drops seeing how many he's got. She tells him to come back the next day. The girls tell him they all registered as adventurers, and Ofta mentions they're all around level 30. Haruka gets ready to register too, but when the clerk checks his stats, she breaks it to him that he doesn't even qualify, he's not even level 10. He asks her to make an exception, but she explains that as a solo adventurer, he needs to hit level 20 just to be considered a beginner. He's pretty crushed, thinking he's got no option. Later that night, they head to an inn, and Haruka's surprised by the vibe, wondering if it's a love hotel. Turns out, it's pretty regular, and he thinks about going back to the woods. The next day, Haruka figures the girls should be safe now, so he plans to leave after he cashes in on his crystals. But when he gets to the guild, the clerk hands him all the money they've got, saying they don't have enough to cover everything. So the boss asks if they can pay the rest in installments. They hand him 8 million, and he's feeling like he's set for life. His buddy Godlike offers to take him somewhere special, and Haruka starts daydreaming about meeting some cute girls. So Godlike takes him to a weapon shop instead, saying it's got some rare gear straight out of the dungeon. He vouches for the owner, even though the guy looks kinda sketchy. Haruka starts testing out different items, but there's this necklace that really catches his eye. It says Fit 7 in the description, just like his own gear, so he asks the owner what that even means. The owner breaks it down, explaining that Fit 7 is all about combining the effects of 7 items so they work together at the same time. Haruka's pumped, imagining all the power-ups he could add to his gear. But right then, the class rep steps in, scolding him and saying it's time for bed. Just then, the vine he's holding activates, making him knock over all the other items, which somehow end up merging together. The owner's heated, telling him that setup was worth a solid 10 million, and Godlike's over here trying to negotiate it down to 8 million. By the next day, Haruka's already broke and starts thinking about getting more crystals. But he remembers outsiders can't leave town without being official adventurers with a permit. Wanting to head back to the forest, he uses his newly fused invisibility cloak to slip right past the class rep. He bolts for the wall, figuring he can jump it. But then he hears the girls calling to him, and he slams right into it. Turns out it's the volleyball girls. He's looking around, wondering where their fourth is, so he uses his perception skill and spots Juice Girl undressing again. They rush over to her, but Haruka knows his escape plan is totally done for. The next day, the girls head out on their first quest, and Haruka asks to tag along. But the class rep's got no trust left for him after his escape attempt. Once they're gone, though, he slips through the gate with his invisibility cloak. Haruka's hyped to finally be out, but as he's running, he spots a group of goblins. He figures they're not worth his time, so he keeps moving. Then he comes across this wrecked village and decides to pass on that too. But then he stumbles on some bandits attacking a carriage. He thinks about stepping in with his new staff, but ends up wanting to ignore that as well. The bandits don't let him slip by, though they're not cool with leaving a witness. So Haruka lights them up with fire bullets, and he's low-key impressed with how strong his staff is now, realizing it was the vine that turned his stick into this powerful staff. The bandits think he's just some weak magic user, so they try to charge him, but he shuts them down. They start pulling out all kinds of weapon moves, which he knows are skills you only get at level 20, but he dodges them all with ease. One by one, they wear themselves out and end up passing out on their own. That's when this noble girl named Mariel rolls up, thanking Haruka for handling the bandits. But then she says, "Should I even thank you? Though the bandits kinda beat themselves up, and you almost left me hanging." She tells him she's the daughter of a lord and asks if he'll stick around for the rest of her trip. Haruka's thinking he really should be getting back to the forest, but when she promises to repay him, he's down to help. She asks him where he's coming from, but he's blanking on the town's name and just calls it shabby. Then Mariel drops that her dad is the lord of that place, so he realizes they're heading back to Omi City and tries to bounce. But she insists on bringing him along to reward him, so his escape plan flops again. Meanwhile, we switch over to the jocks facing off against some delinquents. Just as the delinquents are about to strike, their leader gets stabbed from behind. Both the gym bros and the troublemakers are straight up stunned by what's going down. But when the rest of the delinquents try to step up and avenge their buddy, the first one who moves in just ends up getting stabbed too. The last two think they've got a shot if they double team, but this mystery attacker still takes them down with no sweat. Seeing all this, the gym bros realize they're way out of their league, so they make a break for it. But the attacker's way too fast, they barely get a few steps before he's in front of them, closing in with this deadly look in his eyes. Meanwhile, Haruka's back in town thanks to Mariel, though he wasn't down for it at all. He only went along cause she started tearing up, so he figured he'd be nice and tag along. Once they reach the Lord's place, Mariel steps away for a bit, so Haruka takes a peek around. The house is nice and all, but that's got nothing to do with him, so he heads for the door to bounce. Before he can get out, Mariel shows up again, mad that he's trying to leave since she asked him to wait for her while she changed. She's all fired up, telling him to chill a bit longer cause she's got something special planned to thank him. Haruka doesn't feel like waiting, but she's laying it on thick, so he sticks around. At first, Haruka's still iffy about staying, but when Mariel reveals this huge feast she set up for him, his whole mood shifts. Mariel put this spread together to show some gratitude, but she's low-key annoyed when Haruka totally ignores her while he's going to town on the food. As he's digging in, Mariel calls a maid over to bring the rest of his reward. They hand him a pouch of cash, and he nods but doesn't seem too thrilled. As a bonus, Mariel noticed he wasn't registered with the city, so she took the time to get him a custom ID card that lets him come and go from the city anytime he wants. That's a nice gesture and all, but Haruka's already zoned out, zeroed in on the dessert they brought out, barely noticing anything else. Mariel kept yelling at that fool all night, and didn't stop till the sun came up. Then, the class rep and the girls start grilling Haruka, wanting to know everything that went down the night before. Haruka keeps it simple, saying he just got called up to the local lord's mansion. Class rep can tell he's not lying, but she's still baffled on why the lord would want to see Haruka at all. Haruka decides to keep things low-key, dodging details about how he bumped into Mariel during his busted escape attempt. Eventually, the girls let it slide and get ready for a mission. Before heading out, class rep tells Haruka he better stay put in town, and this time, he seems oddly chill about it. The thing is, he's only playing nice cause he knows once they're gone, there's nothing stopping him. With his custom ID, he can bounce out of town anytime he wants now. But before he dips, he's got a few things to wrap up. First, he drops some cash on new gear, eats all the good food he can find, and then starts writing a note for class rep. He scribbles down that he's heading back to the forest to check on the gym bros, not that he plans to come back anytime soon. But he does feel kinda bad for those muscleheads. Once he's set, he flashes his ID at the gate, and they let him through without a hitch. This time, he's not letting himself get sidetracked by any random side quests. Soon enough, he's back in the woods, relieved to see everything looks the same as he left it. He's excited to get back to his place, but he's not paying much attention, so he doesn't spot an orc creeping up to take a swing at him. Lucky for him, his stats are way too high for some orc to handle, so he drops it with a single hit of his staff, but he finds it weird in orcs hanging around here since they're usually much deeper in the woods. And that's not the only weird thing. He stumbles on a fresh blood trail nearby, human from the looks of it. Haruka knows that blood couldn't be from the nerds, those guys are too strong to get taken down by anything out here, so he figures it must be from one of the gym bros. He starts tracking the blood trail, and eventually, he finds the gym bros lying all messed up and bloody under a tree. At first, he thinks they're goners, but when he gets closer, he sees they're still breathing, so he dumps every healing potion he's got on them until they finally come to. The gym bros start explaining what went down, and while Haruka had thought they got jumped by the delinquents, he's floored when they tell him all the delinquents are actually dead. Haruka asks if the nerds got hit too, but the bros aren't sure. It doesn't seem likely though, since the nerds left the forest a while back. They can tell Haruka's planning to go after whoever did this, so they warn him. Tanaka's gotten crazy strong now, so strong, they barely lasted a few seconds against him. And on top of that, he swiped all their top tier weapons, making him even more dangerous. They figure he's been setting this up ever since the class got dropped into this world. And now they don't know if anyone can stop him, but they're pretty sure who his next target is. Out of everyone left, it's probably gonna be class rep, cause she's got the hijack skill. Haruka can see why Tanaka would come after her for that. But here's the thing, only class rep, the nerds and Haruka even knew she had that skill. So he's wondering how Tanaka got wind of it. The gym bros figured it out cause Tanaka kept grilling them for class rep's location. And when they couldn't give him what he wanted, he beat them down nearly to death. They didn't want to go looking for class rep and risk leading Tanaka to her. So they dragged themselves to the area near Haruka's place, hoping he'd find them before it was too late. They're sure that with Haruka on their side, they might stand a chance if they all go up against Tanaka together. But Haruka's not sure if he even wants to get mixed up in all this. Getting caught up in a battle like this wasn't his plan at all. He was trying to steer clear of side quests, but since class rep's getting targeted, he has to step in and put an end to it. Still, he makes it clear to the jocks that this fight is his alone. He's handling it solo. The jocks try to convince him not to go it alone since that's crazy risky. But when they see that fire in his eyes, they realize he's dead serious, so they back off and let him do his thing. Haruka tells them to head into town and meet up with the rest of the girls. Plus, they should really apologize to class rep for bailing on the group earlier. As the jocks take off, Haruka thinks to himself that having them in the fight might have been a good move, but he can't risk having all of them go in together. If Tanaka overpowers them, then nobody will be left to warn the girls. The smartest play is for him to take this on alone and make sure he's ready when he finally faces Tanaka. Back in the village, class rep is worried sick after realizing Haruka left the city. The other girls are trying to calm her down, saying there's nothing to freak out about, Haruka will definitely come back. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, Haruka is plotting his strategy against Tanaka because the jocks warned him that Tanaka's got some crazy powerful weapon skills. Even the weapon skills of those no-name bandits are scary, but Haruka learned something important dealing with them. Once a weapon skill animation starts, it can't be cancelled. So if Tanaka tries to use a weapon skill on him, he needs to be ready to take advantage of that weakness. To pull it off, he's got to snag a new skill, which means leveling up. Just then, he spots a bunch of goblins that came in because of the jock's blood, and these guys are pretty high level, so he takes them out for some experience. Still, no matter how hard he tries, he can't level up. He's wishing he could throw down with something tougher and get those experience points up. And right as he says it, a goblin king pops up. No hesitation, Haruka's ready to take it down. This goblin king's no joke, it's strong, and it's fast too, with attacks coming at him quickly. Haruka barely manages to dodge at the last second. One hit from this thing could be game over. He can't even think about hitting back without getting tagged himself, so he's got to switch it up and think of a new move. He whips out his warp skill, mixes up a bunch of other skills, and turns them into a whole new one. With this new skill, he dashes right past the Goblin King and drops it in an instant. He's pumped, feeling good that his skill mashup worked so well. But before he can celebrate, he feels this creepy, heavy presence behind him, so he backs up, bracing for the next fight. This new monster, a Goblin Emperor, and it's sitting at level 50. Meanwhile, Haruka's only level 9. He knows straight up fighting this thing head-on isn't gonna work. His only move is to give that new combo skill another shot. He fires it up and charges straight at the Goblin Emperor. As soon as he's close, he hits it, but his special skills don't even scratch it. The Goblin Emperor just stands up like nothing happened and starts swinging back at him, faster than he can believe. It's clear now the Goblin Emperor's using some kind of weapon skills. These attacks are way too strong, so Haruka's gotta focus, looking for the smallest gap in its moves so he can throw in a counter. Finally, he sees a tiny opening and lands a solid hit to the goblin's chest, sending it flying backward. But even with all that damage, the goblin just starts healing itself like it's no big deal. Realizing regular hits aren't getting him anywhere, Haruka figures he's gotta come up with an even stronger combo skill. But before he can do that, the Goblin Emperor fires off one of its weapon skills, throwing a series of deadly slashes right at him. Haruka barely blocks, but he's hurting, and his chances aren't looking too hot. But he's not backing down. He knows he's gotta push through this if he wants to get strong enough to protect his friends. He picks himself up and charges at the Goblin Emperor one last time, giving it everything he's got. By the time morning rolls around, Haruka's the last one standing. Thanks to the all-nighter he pulled, he's leveled up twice. Now at level 11, Haruka heads back home to check out his status window. Just as he thought, he's unlocked some new skills, but he still isn't sure if it'll be enough to take Tanaka down. Even so, with his custom skill, he can strike in a flash, catching anyone off guard in the middle of their weapon skill animation. He's just gonna have to bank on that and hope it swings the fight his way. Later that night, Tanaka shows up outside Haruka's place, just like he's been waiting for. Haruka remembers how Tanaka got picked on by the jocks when they first arrived. But he realizes now Tanaka was just biding his time, ready to get payback. Meanwhile, the girls have just gotten back to Omi after a long day of adventuring. As they're walking back, they spot a couple of guys slumped outside the town walls. They soon realize it's the jocks, and they're glad to see them, but they're also worried because the jocks look pretty roughed up. Class rep remembers that Haruka left a note, saying he'd go check on the jocks, so she asks them if they know where he is. They let her know Haruka's out in the woods right now, putting his life on the line for all of them. Out in the woods, Tanaka's frustrated when he realizes Haruka's the only one there. He was hoping to see class rep instead. He even went through all the trouble of getting the delinquents to stir things up and split the class. That's when Haruka realizes Tanaka's been pulling all the strings this whole time and Tanaka's ready to take out whoever he needs to get what he wants. But Tanaka doesn't see Haruka as any kind of threat, so he turns to head out and hunt down class rep, planning to steal her hijack skill. But even if Haruka doesn't exactly vibe with his classmates, he's not about to let them get hurt. He steps up, raises his staff to Tanaka's neck, and says, "You shall not pass." Tanaka, annoyed that someone he sees as a nobody is standing in his way, warns Haruka that if he's that set on stopping him, he's more than ready to take him out. Tanaka lets loose his full power, hurling some rocks Haruka's way as a warning shot. He then brings up the White Room, where everyone was picking their skills. Tanaka went last and made sure to scoop up all the leftover skills nobody wanted because they were worthless. With a smirk, he asks Haruka if he really thinks he can take him down with those trash skills, then launches even bigger rocks his way. Haruka braces himself to block them, but Tanaka goes ahead and uses his unique ability tweak. Suddenly, Haruka's body starts moving all strange, like he's lost control. It's hard to move, but he somehow dodges the rocks, only for Tanaka to summon crystal spikes right under him. Haruka manages to sidestep those too, but he's worn down, feeling like his whole body just got way heavier. Tanaka, impressed, admits Haruka's better than he thought. Then, he asks how long Haruka's been on to him. Haruka says he had his suspicions from the start. Haruka figured Tanaka would either stick with the nerds or roll solo, so it threw him when he saw Tanaka hanging with the delinquents. He knew there had to be a reason. Haruka then asks when this plan of Tanaka's kicked off. Tanaka reveals he thought of it the moment they got yanked out of the classroom. He missed the hijack skill, but when he saw Tweak the skill to mess with people a little, he grabbed it. He used it to play the delinquents for fools, and the rest was history. Tanaka then says they've chatted enough. He traps Haruka's foot with a vine, then launches a blazing fire spell, convinced it'll finish him off. But Haruka suddenly absorbs the flames into his staff, using the power of the herb that fused with it. He moves to counterattack, catching Tanaka off guard, but Tanaka was just putting on an act. With a quick move, Tanaka pulls out a sword, blocks Haruka's strike, and shoves him back. Then he summons all his weapons, announcing he finally gets to use them all. He charges at Haruka with a sword, switching weapons with every hit. Haruka's completely on defense, barely able to keep up with Tanaka's fast. He tries hiding in the bushes, but Tanaka lands a heavy hit, blasting him clear across the river. Haruka starts piecing it together. He's not strong enough to take Tanaka head on, and wonders how he's able to juggle all those weapons and powers at once. Tanaka shows up and tells him to quit while he's ahead, but Haruka pushes himself up and throws a question back, asking if he's using the copycat skill to swipe abilities from their classmates. Tanaka confirms with a wicked grin, adding that his plan was to copy the class rep's hijack skill, take her out, and snatch the real deal for himself. Once that was done, it'd be easy for him to wipe everyone out and collect their skills too. Haruka realizes he's facing his toughest opponent yet, and then Tanaka switches it up, throwing different weapons at him. Haruka fights back, but his strikes only hit an illusion. The real Tanaka is lurking behind him. Thinking quickly, Haruka points his staff down at the ground. Tanaka assumes he's giving up and charges, but Haruka sidesteps, dodging the attack in a smooth, ultra instinct-like move. He then throws Tanaka off by asking if he can use each copied skill only 3 times. That rattles Tanaka, and his composure starts to crack. Haruka reveals he figured out the weakness in his copycat skill a while ago and was purposely burning through Tanaka's copied abilities. Furious at being outplayed, Tanaka attacks in a fit of desperation, but Haruka dodges and knocks him back with a hard kick. Seeing an opening, Haruka decides it's time to end this. But just as he moves in, Tanaka fires a powerful shot, forcing him to pause. Refusing to back down, Tanaka whips out his ultimate weapon, summoning a dagger and lunging at Haruka with 2 quick strikes before vanishing and reappearing above him. Haruka dodges each strike, but as the dust settles, he realizes it was all a distraction. Tanaka's got one more trick up his sleeve. Tanaka's hiding behind a rock, building up his ultimate move, Instant Death. He hits Haruka with it, and true to its name, the skill takes him out on the spot. Haruka hits the ground, lifeless, and Tanaka steps out, laughing like a straight-up villain. He even stomps on Haruka's head for good measure and starts to leave. But then, out of nowhere, Haruka gets up and calls out, asking Tanaka why he's dipping so soon. Tanaka spins around, freaked out, and demands to know how he's still alive after instant death. Haruka lets him in on his secret. He's got a health skill that makes him tough against status effects, and instant death counts as one of those. Plus, his luck stat is maxed out, meaning the death skill's success rate was almost nothing against him. Tanaka loses it, asking why he dropped dead if he was fine, and Haruka shrugs, saying it was all an act. Tanaka's head is spinning, and he snaps, saying Haruka shouldn't even be able to move that fast while under his tweak skill. Haruka then drops another bomb. He used a skill called Blockhead, which lets him control others like puppets, and he used it on himself to cancel out Tweak's effect. Tanaka is out of control now, full-blown temper tantrum. Starts throwing every weapon skill he's got at Haruka, but Haruka blocks it all without breaking a sweat. Tanaka, realizing he's been played, then dramatically drops to his knees. He remembers how he used to be bored out of his mind in school, being the genius who outpaced everyone. He'd been dying for some excitement, and when he and his classmates got pulled into this world, he knew exactly which skills to pick to turn his life into a thrill ride. He'd been willing to take out anyone for the rush, planning to collect every skill and make himself unbeatable. But now, facing Haruka, he's spiraling, furious that he's losing to someone he thought had useless skills. In a frenzy, he charges recklessly at Haruka. Haruka easily disarms him, figuring Tanaka's got no tricks left, and moves in to finish the fight. But then, out of nowhere, his sword whips back and stabs Haruka. Tanaka was hiding some remote control powers all along. Tanaka declares victory, slashing at Haruka with a grin. Haruka manages to punch him away, though having used his packing skill to shield himself from most of the damage. He decides it's time to end this, activating his gambit skill to land a strike that Tanaka can't dodge. Tanaka collapses, knocked out cold, and Haruka walks off, saying that while he might not have the crazy powerful skills, he's got his own tricks. But he's worn down to the bone now. The damage he's been holding back starts catching up with him. His strength fails, and he drops to his knees, thinking this might be the end. As he starts fading out, memories of the class rep and his friends cross his mind. But suddenly he feels someone supporting him. Haruka opens his eyes to find the nerds by his side. He's a bit annoyed they showed up so late, but they brush it off, telling him to save the complaints for later. They hand him some healing potions and help him get back on his feet, walking him out of the forest toward the town. When he asks why they're out here, they explain they ran into some classmates on their way back from hunting. The jocks filled them in about Haruka's fight with Tanaka, so they rushed over but were a little late. They reach the city gates, and everyone's waiting for them. The girls crowd around Haruka, offering themselves as his reward, but he nervously backs off and high-fives the jock leader instead. The girls laugh, pulling him along, and even apologize to the nerds for how they treated them in the past. Haruka can't help but think this is the happy ending everyone's been hoping for, and that he's no longer needed here. He starts to sneak away while everyone's celebrating, but the class rep catches him in the act, asking where he thinks he's going. Caught off guard, he stammers, but she suddenly hugs him, saying she was genuinely worried. He apologizes, but she tells him sorry isn't gonna cut it. She's rallied all the girls in the class, and they're ready to let him have it for sneaking out of the city without saying a word. Haruka panics, but he's got no escape as the girls drag him back, ready to scold him and suck the life out of him. The next morning, Haruka wakes up after a wild dream and heads downstairs. The nerds are already there, looking ready to hit the dungeon again. From the way they're acting, Haruka can tell they're up to something, and his curiosity kicks in, especially since they've been diving into that dungeon non-stop. Turns out, they're after some rare treasure that only drops in the dungeon. They spill the beans. This item's supposed to help them set up their own harem. Haruka's taken aback. The nerds have been stuck here for a month with zero luck pulling in a single hottie. They're banking on this harem raid to flip the script. The crew gears up and heads out. While Haruka admits a harem raid sounds kinda wild, he's got no interest in it. All he wants is to get back to chilling alone, far away from everyone's drama. But before he can even think about slipping away, trouble finds him. The class rep shows up, mad as hell. Haruka freezes like a deer in headlights, wondering what he's done wrong now. He got chewed out by the girls yesterday, but clearly class rep's been holding back for her turn. She goes off, yelling about how reckless he's been and how he didn't take her with him. She's completely ignoring the fact that she was Tanaka's main target. Haruka knows there's no winning this, so he apologizes just to calm her down and promises to let her know the next time he's about to risk his life. Class rep cools off after his promise, giving him a side eye before walking away. Haruka slumps to the floor, feeling like he's losing the battle for his peaceful solo life. He needs a game plan, and fast. That's when it hits him, the ring of charisma. If he charms all the girls, they'll stop being mad at him, and he'll finally be free to dip out. With his mind made up, Haruka's ready to hit the dungeon again. Meanwhile, over at the Lord's mansion, Mariel's worried about her father. He's been working himself into the ground, and she tries to get him to chill with some tea. But he's too stressed. There have been monster sightings in the area, and he can't let his guard down yet. The whole town's taking a hit, cause merchants are scared to move their goods. And as the Lord, Mariel's dad knows he's got to step up. Right when he's thinking about what to do, a guard busts into the room with some terrible news: a monster horde just showed up near the dungeon. Meanwhile, Haruka's already run into that horde. He wasn't planning on scrapping with anything on his way to the dungeon, but he figures a little warm-up fight won't hurt. Over at the guild, though, Mariel's panicking because she has no clue Haruka's already out there handling business. She rushes in and tells the guildmaster about the massive group of orcs heading straight for the town. If nobody steps in, the place is toast. Hearing that the guild goes full alert mode, adventurers start gearing up, and class rep, who's hanging out at the guild, volunteers to help defend the town. She rounds up her classmates, but quickly realizes someone's missing: Haruka. Out in the field, Haruka's busy tearing through the horde. He's a little surprised at how many orcs are swarming around, and even spots an orc king. Not that it bothers him, he can one-shot all of them without breaking a sweat. Back at the town gate, the adventurers are braced for an all-out battle, but by the time they're ready, it's already over. Haruka's wiped out the entire horde, including the orc king, like it's nothing. As he looks around at the mess he left behind, he finds it kind of weird that so many orcs showed up out of nowhere. But honestly, he doesn't care enough to think about it and gets back on track to the dungeon. When Haruka finally reaches the dungeon building, he sneaks past the guard posted outside. No need for small talk, he's here to get things done. Inside, he's blown away by how detailed the place looks. It's almost enough to distract him, but he shakes it off. He's got bigger things to handle. His mission: find the Ring of Charisma. The problem, he has no idea what it looks like. So he starts wandering around until he stumbles on a treasure chest sitting in the middle of a hallway. Excited, he pops it open, expecting something epic. But when he uses his appraisal skill to check the loot, all he finds is junk. Total letdown. Haruka keeps pushing through the dungeon, hoping to find something good, but all he comes across is trash. Eventually, he throws in the towel on trying to find the Ring of Charisma by himself and figures he'll ask that shady merchant back in town if he knows anything about it. Meanwhile, back at the town gates, everyone's been on high alert for hours, waiting on the orcs to show up. Folks are starting to side-eye Mariel, thinking she might have made the whole thing up. But then, through the smoke, they spot something moving. Weapons are drawn, tensions thick, but turns out it's just Haruka, strolling in like he's had the longest day ever. Dude's half asleep from his dungeon crawl. Haruka's clueless about why the town's on edge, but class rep wastes no time running up to him, talking about some horde of monsters heading for the village. She also demands to know where he's been all day. Haruka not wanting to spill the beans about his hunt for the Ring of Charisma, so Haruka stays quiet. Then Godlike steps in, asking if Haruka saw any orcs on his way back. That's when Haruka casually remembers he mowed down a whole horde of them earlier. For some reason, this gets everybody heated. The guildmaster and Mariel both thank him for saving the town, but immediately start lecturing him about how reckless it was to take on that many monsters alone. The guildmaster lays it out: monster activity's been spiking, with creatures even slipping out of the dungeon. If things keep going this way, they could be looking at a full-blown dungeon stampede. He makes Haruka promise not to pull any more stunts like that. Later, back in his room, Haruka's stewing over the day's events. Now, with both the guildmaster and Mariel breathing down his neck, sneaking out of town without someone getting on his case is going to be even trickier. The next day, Haruka heads to see the magic item merchant. The guy's not thrilled to see him, clearly still salty about whatever Haruka pulled last time. But Haruka waves it off, saying he's not here for magic items today. Just a quick question. He asks if the merchant knows where to find the Ring of Charisma. The merchant hasn't heard of it, but he does mention something called the pheromone ring, a piece of gear that boosts charisma. That pheromone ring sounds exactly like what Haruka's been searching for, so he asks the merchant where he can find it. Since it's nowhere on the first floor, the merchant lets him know there's no way something that valuable would have been left there, it'd be long gone by now. The merchant explains it's probably sitting somewhere around the 50th floor of the dungeon, a place no one's dared to explore yet. The dungeon's got 100 floors in total, but getting through isn't easy. You've got to beat a boss on every floor to move down. There's still a lot about the dungeon that nobody knows, but if Haruka's planning to go that deep, the merchant warns him to load up on potions and recovery gear. Haruka takes the advice and heads off to stock up. What he doesn't realize is the nerds overheard every word of his conversation. As soon as they catch on that Haruka's after the pheromone ring, they run straight to class rep to snitch. When class rep finds out what Haruka's planning, she and the other girls start freaking out. If Haruka gets his hands on that ring, they'll be too charmed to say no to him, and he'd be free to do whatever he wanted. That's not about to happen on their watch. They decide they've got to stop him at all costs. After stocking up, Haruka's on his way to the dungeon when his perception skill tips him off there are people tailing him. He turns around and spots class rep and the entire class rolling up on him. He stops in his tracks and asks what they're all doing there. Class rep flips it back on him, asking what he's doing. She outright calls him out, saying she knows he's after the pheromone ring. Haruka denies it and pulls a lie out of thin air, claiming he's looking for the tree's ring, something that lets you talk to animals. Nobody's buying that for a second. Realizing he's not going to shake them off with excuses, Haruka decides to make a break for it. Class rep and the whole class chase him right into the dungeon. Haruka's ahead of them for now, but he knows if class rep beats him to the pheromone ring, she'll use it to make him follow her rules, and that's a nightmare for his solo lifestyle. He kicks it into high gear, sprinting to put as much distance between him and the group as possible. Class rep yells after Haruka, warning him it's reckless to be sprinting in a dungeon, he might trigger a trap. Haruka fires back, saying traps can't touch him because his luck stat is maxed out. Traps might not get him, but shoddy construction's a whole different story. When he leans on the wall, it collapses, sending him plunging into what feels like an endless pit. Class rep reaches out, trying to grab him, but she's too late, and Haruka's free falling to what seems to be a terrible ending. As he keeps falling for way too long, it hits him that he's completely forgotten about his airwalk skill. He's so focused on panicking, he doesn't even try to save himself. But when the ground finally comes into view, he pulls it together and uses his earth magic to turn the floor into a cushion, breaking his fall smoothly. Sitting at the bottom, Haruka starts looking around and wonders if he somehow fell all the way to the 100th floor. There's only one tunnel leading out of there, and he's pretty sure it's the path to the dungeon's final boss. That's the last thing he wants to deal with, so he starts brainstorming a way out. Finally remembering his airwalk skill, Haruka tries to use it to climb back up. But the pit is so deep that airwalk can't get him anywhere close to the top. With no other options, he sucks it up and starts heading down the creepy tunnel. On the upside, falling into that trap unlocked 2 new skills for him: trap detection and spatial awareness. Using his new skills, Haruka scans the area. No traps show up on the path to the boss's room, but he stumbles on something far worse. This isn't the 100th floor, it's floor 101. That means he has to face the hidden boss, which sounds like a whole mess. But what choice does he have? As Haruka walks through the hallway, he notices the mana in the air is so thick it's hard to breathe, making the whole vibe even sketchier. Still, he keeps pushing forward and eventually makes it to the boss's room. With no other way out, he opens the door, bracing himself for whatever's on the other side. The second Haruka steps into the room, a rush of mana slams into him, and standing in front of him is the secret boss of the Dungeon Emperor. He knows this fight's going to be no joke, so he uses his appraisal skill to check out his opponent. What he finds is enough to shake anyone. The Dungeon Emperor is level 100. Meanwhile, Class Rep and the rest of the crew are still making their way down the dungeon looking for Haruka. They've hit the 47th floor, and there's no sign of him anywhere. Some of the group starts thinking he might have fallen to the very bottom. Shimazaki suggests Haruka could use one of the portals that send you back to the surface, but Oda explains that's not how it works. Those portals only show up after beating a floor boss, and if you skip the regular path, the portals don't appear at all. Basically, Haruka's stuck. Even though they all know Haruka's strong, the stories about this dungeon say the Dungeon Emperor is at the bottom, and it's leagues ahead of even the Dungeon King. The girls start realizing they might not have what it takes to save Haruka, since their gear isn't built for such a deep dive. Class Rep isn't about to leave him behind though, so they agree to keep pushing forward and see how far they can make it. Back in the boss room, Haruka's sizing up his options. His appraisal skill didn't show any of the Dungeon Emperor's abilities, but it did reveal one thing. This creature is the no-life king. Haruka knows liches are monsters when it comes to magic, so there's no way he's letting this turn into a long-range fight. Instead, he decides to take it head-on, Flash stepping behind the lich. He thinks he's got the drop on it, but the lich counters at the last second with a sword. It's clear now this battle won't be the easy win Haruka was hoping for. Outside the dungeon, Mariel and her father see dark clouds gathering over the dungeon. They know it means something big and bad is about to happen. Her dad tells her, go to the guild and warn them to prepare for any emergencies that might come up. Meanwhile, Haruka is in the dungeon, still figuring out how to deal with the Dungeon Emperor's god-level speed. He decides to unleash all his speed-boosting abilities at once to turn the tables. He starts darting across the room, trying to outmaneuver the Emperor. Every time he strikes, though, he's still a step too slow. He pushes himself to go even faster. Haruka keeps attacking and tweaking his movements, but nothing is giving him an advantage. The Emperor dodges his every move and Haruka is just barely avoiding deadly counterattacks. He's running out of time and energy. In the middle of the fight, Haruka's contact lenses unlock a new ability, Foresight. He starts seeing glimpses of the future, but the ability comes with a warning. If he lets his guard down for even a second, he's done for. Haruka knows he doesn't have many choices left. He decides to go all out, attacking with everything he has because his survival depends on it. The battle drags on, and at some point Haruka starts enjoying the intensity. But his body isn't keeping up, his knees give out, and he's panting hard. He's completely drained of stamina and magic, and is on the verge of passing out. Meanwhile, the Dungeon Emperor doesn't even look tired. Haruka forces himself back onto his feet, but he can barely move. If the Emperor strikes now, he's finished. But the Emperor doesn't attack. Haruka realizes something: this isn't a normal monster. There's no bloodlust coming from it, not even a trace. That means it hasn't been taking the fight seriously at all. Haruka feels disrespected. Determined, he pushes himself up and charges at the Emperor one last time, but the Emperor is still faster. Before Haruka can react, there's a sword pressed against his neck. The Dungeon Emperor could have taken Haruka out right there, but it didn't. Haruka's stuck trying to figure out why it's holding back instead of finishing him off. That's when he notices the heavy swirl of miasma around the Dungeon Emperor. It's dark and menacing, bad vibes all around. Haruka starts thinking, maybe this thing isn't fighting by choice. Maybe the miasma's got it under control. While he's piecing that together, his staff starts glowing and pulling the miasma in. It seems to carry some form of cleansing power. Haruka has no clue why his staff can even do this, but he's not about to question it. He rolls with it, attacking with the aim of sucking up all the miasma. After a few swings, he manages to absorb the whole concentration of it. When it's gone, the Dungeon Emperor lowers its sword and just stands there. Haruka realizes he was right, the Emperor wasn't fighting because it wanted to. The miasma had been forcing it, and now he gets it. This monster wasn't trying to win. It's been waiting for someone to take it out, to finally free it from the control of the miasma. That's why it didn't kill Haruka when it had the chance. It was hoping Haruka could end its misery. Even though Haruka got rid of the miasma controlling the Emperor, the air is still thick with it. It's only a matter of time before the Emperor falls under its influence again. Haruka's gotta act fast. At first, he thinks about ending the Emperor's life right there, but he can't bring himself to do it. Instead, he walks up and hugs her, feeling all the pain and suffering she's been through. Turns out, that move triggers Haruka's subjugation skill. The Emperor gets subjugated, and even though Haruka didn't mean for it to happen, it's a win. With the Emperor under his control, the miasma can't take over again. Haruka isn't sure how she feels about the whole thing, so he asks if she's mad about being subjugated. She shakes her head, letting him know she's okay with it. Relieved, Haruka figures out that she understands him, which means they'll be able to communicate just fine. Now that they're cool, Haruka checks her stats to see if anything's different. That's when he notices her level got reset to level 1. Looks like that's a side effect of the subjugation. Haruka's brain short-circuits when he spots the Emperor's name, Angelica. That's when it finally hits him. The Emperor isn't a guy, she's a girl, and he starts freaking out. He knows Class Rep will go off on him if she finds out he subjugated Angelica. But worrying about that won't help now. Haruka pulls himself together and asks Angelica if she wants to get out of there with him. She says yes, so they head through the door and land on the 100th floor of the dungeon. Haruka uses his spatial awareness skill to scan the room. He spots a staircase on the far side that seems to lead out. But as soon as they step inside, the floor boss spawns. Haruka's heart sinks. He's completely wiped out from his fight with Angelica. The only reason he's still standing is because she wasn't trying to kill him. But this level 100 living armor boss, it clearly means business. He doesn't want to fight it if he doesn't have to, so he comes up with a plan. Haruka uses earth magic to bring the ceiling down. His idea is to use airwalk to climb through the hole and escape. Just when he thinks he's got it figured out, 2 minotaurs lock eyes with him, their stares sharp enough to cut steel. He appraises them just to confirm how bad the situation is, and it's worse than he thought. They're level 99. Now he's in even deeper trouble. The minotaurs jump down aiming straight for him, but they land directly on the living armor boss. The impact leaves all 3 with huge damage. Haruka takes his shot and finishes them off before they can recover. While collecting magic crystals, he notices Angelica checking out the broken armor left behind. Haruka tells her she can have it if she wants. She excitedly puts it on, but it's so bulky it doesn't look practical. Before he can say anything, the armor starts glowing and shifts into a form that fits Angelica perfectly. Haruka feels relieved now that her bare bones aren't exposed, but he's still cautious. It's dungeon armor, which could mean trouble. To be sure, he tells her he's going to appraise it to check if it's safe. Turns out the armor is bad news. It's cursed with binding, so now that Angelica's wearing it, she can't ever take it off. Angelica's heated, snapping at Haruka for not warning her about this sooner. But honestly, she's already a skeleton. What else was she going to wear? She didn't have a lot of wardrobe options to begin with. Meanwhile, back on the 50th floor, Haruka's classmates are still out there scrambling to find him. Most of them think it's a waste of time. Haruka's the type to just stroll back in and brag about how he cleared the whole dungeon solo anyway. That does sound like something he'd do. But Class Rep's not trying to sit around waiting for it. She rallies everyone to keep moving and leads them straight to the boss room to keep looking. Bad call. The second she opens that door, they're staring down a massive cyclops as the floor boss. Back in the city, Mariel shows up at the guild with some shady news. She tells the guildmaster something's off in the dungeon. She's not sure what, but it's giving her bad vibes. The guildmaster shrugs it off at first, saying the guard posted at the dungeon hasn't reported anything weird. Then Godlike jumps in, reminding everyone that the guard at the entrance is not the sharpest tool in the shed. If something serious went down, he probably wouldn't even notice. The guildmaster agrees they should prep just in case. Ofta takes the cue and heads out to rally the guild members. The guildmaster also asks where the newbie adventurers are, saying they could really use them right now. Neither Ofta nor Godlike have seen any of Haruka's classmates today, which is odd. Haruka going AWOL is normal, but all of them missing something's definitely off. Back on the 98th floor, Haruka's finally managed to cheer Angelica up by giving her a cape to go with her cursed armor. She seems happier now, even if the situation is still kind of a mess. But just as they're catching a break, Haruka senses a monster nearby. He uses appraisal to scope it out and finds out it's a lich. Problem is, liches are immune to physical attacks. The only thing that works on them is holy magic, and Haruka doesn't know the first thing about that. He starts weighing his options. Maybe he can blow another hole in the ceiling and get out of there. But then he remembers what happened last time 2 minotaurs dropped in, and that's not a gamble he's ready to take again. Haruka doesn't have holy magic, but he notices his staff seems to work against the lich's miasma, so he gives it a shot and just starts poking the lich with it. After a few good hits, the lich disappears. Haruka has no idea why it worked, but he's not complaining. A win's a win. He and Angelica keep moving through the dungeon. When they hit the 97th floor, they run into a swarm of venomous moth monsters. Haruka's not trying to fight them head on. One hit of that venom, and it's game over. Instead, he plays it smart. He whips up a massive fireball and uses it to draw all the moths in. Once they're grouped up, he torches the whole swarm. They press on and make it to the 96th floor, where they're greeted by venomous caterpillars spitting sticky strings everywhere. The floor is basically a death trap, one wrong step, and they're stuck. But Haruka's not about to waste time dodging around. He uses his earth magic to roll up the floor like a rug, flattening every last caterpillar in the process. So far so good. But when they reach the 95th floor, things feel off. The boss of this floor shows up out of nowhere, and it's a living sword. The weird part, this thing's level 100 when it should be 95. The sword comes swinging right at Haruka, but he dodges just in time and tries to sneak around for a counterattack. Before he can land a hit, the sword catches on and moves out of the way. Now Haruka's in trouble. The sword is moving faster than anything human, and on top of that, it's got a squad of helper swords attacking from every angle. There's no way he can keep up with this thing. That's when it hits him, there is someone who can handle this. He calls out to Angelica and asks her to step in. Angelica's more than ready for this. She pulls out her sword, gets serious, and goes all in on the boss. The living sword seems to know it's about to lose. It calls in its helper swords, trying to form a wall to block Angelica's attack. But Angelica isn't fazed. She charges straight in and with one clean swing, slices the boss in half. Haruka can't believe how strong Angelica still is. Most bosses lose a lot of power when they switch sides, but not her. With the two of them working together, Haruka's feeling confident they can clear this dungeon fast. Meanwhile, back on the 50th floor, Haruka's classmates are getting wrecked by that Cyclops. It's not looking good, several of them are already hurt, and one more hit could take them all out. The guys start asking themselves what Haruka would do in a mess like this. Not that his advice is ever useful, but one thing they know for sure, Haruka wouldn't give up. Kakizaki and Oda put their heads together and come up with a plan that might just work. They fill class rep in on the details, but she's not feeling it, it's way too risky. Still, they're out of options, so she finally agrees. Kakizaki steps up to the front lines to face the Cyclops. The thing is a tank, but it's slow. Kakizaki's confident his speed skills will let him dodge long enough to land a hit on its head. The girls in the class start firing spells to keep the Cyclops distracted while Kakizaki closes in. He's just about to strike when the Cyclops pulls a fast one and swats him away like trash with its other hand. Kakizaki's crushed, he couldn't land a single hit. But it's cool, this was all part of the plan. He was just the decoy. Now that he's out of the way, it's Oda's turn to kick this buns. Oda lines up his shot and uses his ability to snipe the Cyclops right through the eye. Meanwhile, Haruka and Angelica have made it to the 85th floor, and things are finally starting to chill. The boss fights are getting easier, and they're making solid progress. But then the ground shakes. A tremor ripples through the dungeon, and Haruka's gut tells him what's coming next. The lazy guards leaning outside, yawning and slacking off while folks are risking their necks diving into the labyrinth. Even though everyone's on edge about a stampede, he's hoping nothing bad happens to them when he spots a swarm of rats scurrying out of the labyrinth. His gut twists as he peers inside and sees a wave of monsters crawling out at once, making his skin crawl. Panicked, he rushes back to town to warn the guildmaster. The guildmaster puts two and two together and realizes the stampede is here. Out in the distance, a massive mob of monsters is charging toward the town. Mariel, tense and annoyed, knows her gut feeling was right all along. Godek's worried about the kids who went into the labyrinth, and the guildmaster digs out an old document he'd stashed away. As he studies it, he drops a bombshell. The labyrinth ain't just a place, it's alive. It keeps growing deeper, and once it hits its limit, monsters flood out of it. Ofta's scratching his head, asking if there's any way to shut this thing down. The guildmaster keeps reading and figures it out. The only way to stop the stampede is to take down the boss on the lowest floor. Godek's shaking his head, thinking no one in town's got what it takes. This makes Mariel think of Haruka, but she's convinced that Loner couldn't handle this mess even if he tried. Suddenly, the whole building trembles. The guildmaster snaps into action, telling Ofta to get the townsfolk out without sparking chaos and ordering Godek to station the guild members at the gate to defend it at all costs. They rush off, and the guildmaster steels himself for a brawl, vowing that no monster will set foot in his town. Meanwhile, Haruka stumbles on some griffins on one of the floors. Cool as a cucumber, he tosses a fish laced with paralytic mushrooms their way. The griffins gobble it up keel over, and Haruka jumps in, thrashing them. Angelica's shaking her head, baffled by how he manages to look like a total coward while pulling this off. They clear the floor, but on the 54th floor, Haruka's friends are hanging by a thread. The class rep keeps everyone steady, urging them to hang in there no matter how rough it gets. They know they gotta save Haruka no matter what, and right in front of them they spot a pack of werewolves. Back in the town, the adventurers just managed to hold off the first wave of the stampede, but they're all beat up and exhausted. Mariel can't believe what she's seen. She's never seen anything like this. Godek tells the guildmaster, "We won't be able to hold the fort if another wave of monsters hits us." Then it hits him, the newbies are still stuck in the dungeon, and Godek's worried the guildmaster's thinking about sending them to take down the boss. The guildmaster thinks Haruka could be the one to take it out, and Mariel realizes Haruka might be their last shot. The guildmaster starts trying to figure out how to get a message to Haruka about stopping the stampede, but Godx not sure anyone can even get to him right now. Both he and Ofta look at Mariel, but she's not sure she can go alone. The guildmaster agrees it's too much to ask of a noblewoman and tells Ofta to go with her since he knows the dungeon. Ofta's worried about the next wave of monsters coming, but the guildmaster tells him not to worry about it. They've got the town covered, even if they're the last ones standing. Ofta gets it and asks Mariel to come with him, but she's still unsure. Then she looks at all the wounded soldiers and adventurers who've been giving everything they've got to protect the town. That's when she decides she's gonna do everything she can too. We shift to Haruka on the 81st floor. He's shocked to find it's a watertight floor. He spots some monster fish in the water, and a few jump at him, but Angelica steps in and takes them down. Haruka thanks her, but she tells him not to worry about it. Haruka notices a bunch of swordfish in the water, and each one's level 81. He knows if they all come at him at once, he's done for. He starts thinking about how to handle them. The real problem, he figures, is how fast they move, and he remembers how fish are kept frozen in the fish market. Haruka uses what he knows and mixes it with his ice magic to chill the water down, slowing those swordfish right up. Then, with his packing ability, he targets and freezes just the swordfish in the lake one batch at a time, clearing the floor like a pro. It's smooth sailing until the boss shows up out of nowhere, catching him off guard. The boss is mad as hell, probably because Haruka froze its buddies. It kicks up a massive wave, sweeping Haruka away while Angelica's left to face it solo. But not for long. Haruka comes charging back, riding the waves on a surfboard made of earth magic. He launches himself straight at the boss's head and lands a blow that surprisingly takes it down. Afterward, he checks on Angelica, relieved she's alright. They move forward and Haruka feels pumped, thinking he's really leveling up in this labyrinth game. On the 79th floor, he snags a pilgrim's ring, which boosts luck like crazy. Then, on the 77th floor, he scores a blessed bangle that can dispel one curse. By the time he hits the 75th floor, he's facing off with a level 100 necromancer. He wins, grabbing a necromantic orb with mastery over life and death inside it. Haruka's hyped about all the loot, thinking this is exactly what labyrinth life is all about. He's already imagining the fortune he could make selling it all, but then he wrestles with the decision: keep it or sell it. His luck's already maxed, and he's not cursed, so he decides to hand the bangle to Angelica. He reminds her about the dark curse she's carrying and hopes this will help her out. It's also his way of apologizing for making her wear that cursed armor earlier. Angelica hesitates but finally takes the stuff after Haruka insists. She tries to play it cool, acting like she doesn't care, but you can tell she's secretly happy to have it. Haruka, clueless as always, doesn't pick up on it. While he heads off looking for more treasure, Angelica takes off her helmet to wipe off her sweat. That's when we see her skin's back to normal, somehow healed. She quickly puts the helmet back on and follows after Haruka. Meanwhile, on the 54th floor, the class rep and the crew take down their last werewolf. The rep checks in, asking if everyone's holding up, but they're barely staying on their feet, completely wiped out. They're dead tired, but giving up on finding Haruka isn't an option. The class rep steps in, telling everyone to hang on just a little longer. Right then, they hear something coming their way. It's Mariel and Ofta showing up. Down in the dungeon, Haruka's hustling through a volcanic floor. Meanwhile, Mariel's pieced it together. Haruka's not with the crew. She's frustrated she even bothered coming here, thinking it's all been a waste. She's stressing about who's going to stop the stampede now, but the class rep stays steady, saying Haruka can handle it. The others aren't convinced. They ask how they're supposed to find him without any idea where he is. The leader of the girls suggests there must be some way to contact him. That idea gets shut down fast. They explain if they had a way, they'd have used it already. Back in the flames, Haruka's moving carefully through the traps, using his skills to detect them. He knows it's a trap-heavy zone, but the heat is making him question if he can disarm everything without burning out. He nearly stumbles, but Angelica steps in and helps him to a safer spot away from the fire. She suggests he take a rest, and he agrees, knowing he needs to recover. Meanwhile, the class rep gathers her resolve to keep searching for him. They need to find him quickly. As Haruka rests, Angelica keeps watch. He's focused on figuring out how to regain his strength. He starts to hear the wind stirring around him. Back on the 54th floor, the class rep senses it too. Cut back to Haruka, he discovers a small hole in the volcanic floor and sticks his head out. Using his wind magic, he creates a gentle breeze to cool himself down. It's a relief, and he mentions how much better it feels. The class rep hears him and realizes he's close. Haruka pulls himself further out and feels lucky to have found the spot. Then the class rep calls out to him. Hearing her voice, he figures this must be the same hole he fell through earlier. He's grateful his voice reached her. She asks if he can climb back up, but he shakes his head, recalling how he already tried and failed. He asks if she's got a rope or something he can use, but none of them have anything. That's when he learns they're up on the 54th floor. Haruka lets her know he can reach them if he just runs for it and asks her to hold tight. Before cutting the convo, she drops the bomb the town's in serious danger. She gives him the full rundown. Haruka's shocked to hear a stampede is headed for the town. Mariel jumps in, explaining the guild's doing everything they can to protect it, but they're hanging by a thread. As she talks, Haruka recognizes her voice. Then off to adds that they ran into the second wave of the stampede on their way here. If there's a third wave, the town won't stand a chance. Mariel says there's only one way to stop the third wave: defeat the dungeon boss. Haruka hits them with the news. He already took the boss down. They're skeptical, trying to figure out why the stampede's still rolling. They suggest maybe the monsters escaped the labyrinth before he killed the boss. But that doesn't explain why there are still monsters inside. Ofta presses him, asking if he actually killed the boss. Haruka admits he didn't. He couldn't bring himself to kill Angelica after everything she's been through. Trapped in that nightmare all alone for so long. Ofta's stuck, wondering what to do now. Haruka knows he's gotta save both the town and Angelica. He starts piecing together a plan and reassures Angelica, telling her he might need her help to pull it off. She's all in, and Haruka doubles down on his resolve to stop the stampede. Ofta's still doubtful there's another way, and the class rep asks if Haruka's sure about his plan. He confidently tells her he's got it covered, and she puts her full trust in him. Mariel can't believe how quickly she's on board and asks why she's so sure. The class rep simply says, because he said so. She explains that Haruka can be reckless sometimes and pull moves that stress them out, but he always comes through in the end. She's certain this time will be no different. Haruka thanks her for the faith, promising to save Angelica and everyone in the town. Meanwhile, the second wave of monsters hits the town, and the adventurers gathered outside the city walls are fighting with everything they've got to keep them out. The odds aren't great though. With the forces they have, it's gonna be tough to hold the line. But the guildmaster rallies everyone, telling them to give it their all. This is their home, and they've got to protect it. Down in the dungeon, Haruka knows time's running out. If the city falls, it's game over. He turns to Angelica and asks if we can speed things up and rush the rest of the way out. Angelica's cool with it, so they start sprinting through the remaining floors. They hit the 73rd floor and run into two lizardmen. Haruka doesn't even break stride. He remembers reptiles are weak to cold, so he throws out some ice magic to freeze them solid. Angelica finishes the job, smashing them to pieces. The next floor, a swarm of scorpions. Haruka's ready. He floods the room with smoke, leaving them disoriented. Angelica takes them out one by one. Then comes the next level, where they face a giant hellhound as the boss. Haruka doesn't have the perfect spell for this one, so he improvises. He chucks a stink bomb straight at the hellhound's face, throwing it off just long enough for Angelica to deliver the killing blow. After that, Haruka takes a breather to organize all the loot they've picked up. He's thinking it might be smarter to combine everything they've got. It could help speed things up. But he's still bummed he hasn't found the pheromone ring he came here for in the first place. Meanwhile, Angelica looks like she's got something on her mind. Haruka notices and tells her there's something he wants to try when they're back in town. But that's not what's bothering her. She's worried Haruka's overdoing it and wants him to rest for a bit. Haruka knows he's running on fumes, but there's no time to slow down. They head up to the 69th floor, which turns out to be a forest stage. So far, no boss in sight. Then, out of nowhere, an owl lands on a branch nearby. Haruka uses appraisal and learns it's the floor boss, a sleep owl. Probably has some kind of sleep ability. Before he can prepare for what's coming, the owl's eyes light up, and it tries to hit Haruka with a sleep effect. Commonly, Haruka's well-being skill would cancel out any effects messing with him, but this time he'd been pushing himself so hard, he was too wiped out for it to kick in. Before he knows it, he's out cold. Then he wakes up on Angelica's back. While he was knocked out, she took down the sleep owl and picked him up to keep things moving. Even though he's awake now, Angelica tells him he needs to chill a bit longer while she carries him. Meanwhile, back with Haruka's classmates, they're hustling to clear a few more floors to catch up with him. But then they hit a wall, a level 100 Sphinx. This thing is leagues above them, and they're way out of their depth. Every attack they throw barely scratches it, and whatever little damage they do manage is healed up instantly. Ofta, who's been doing his homework on dungeon monsters, tells them to stop wasting their energy. He explains that dungeon sphinxes can't be taken down by brute force. You gotta solve a puzzle to beat one. This thing is immune to everything they've got, basically untouchable. Unless someone figures out the puzzle, they're done for. While all this is going down, Haruka and Angelica make it to floor 59. Since Angelica's been hauling him most of the way, Haruka's feeling good as new. Then his perception skill fires off a warning something's going down on an upper floor. Haruka doesn't waste time and starts rushing up to check it out. Meanwhile, back on floor 57, his classmates are at their breaking point. No matter what they do, they can't land a hit that matters on the Sphinx, and they're totally clueless about the puzzle they need to solve. Just as they're spiraling into despair, class rep loses sight of the Sphinx. By the time she realizes what's going on, the beast is closing in, about to turn her into a cheeseburger. But right before anything can happen, Haruka shows up. He's already scoped out the Sphinx and knows all about its immunity to damage. Lucky for them, Haruka's been busy. On his way down, he picked up an item that lets him bust through any defenses. Haruka ain't playing around. After he hits the Sphinx to shut down its defense, Angelica wastes no time. She jumps in and takes it out for good, slicing its head clean off. With the Sphinx down and the crew out of danger, Haruka steps up, greeting everybody. The squad's relieved. If Haruka hadn't rolled in, they'd be done for. But class reps got questions. She side-eyes Angelica standing next to him and wants to know what's up. Haruka starts breaking it down about everything that went down while he was stuck at the bottom of the dungeon. But before he can get far, the floor crumbles beneath him. He's about to take a one-way trip back to the dungeon's basement. Good thing Haruka's been through this before. He's learned the hard way to keep an eye out. Quick on his feet, he uses the falling rubble to jump back up, landing safely. He tells the group, relax. I'm not falling for the same trap twice. But then it happens again a third time, and this time Haruka's caught off guard. He's really about to fall, but class rep isn't having it. She dives after him, refusing to let him go. She's learned from her own mistakes too, and this time, she grabs his hand and pulls him back up in time. The group breathes a sigh of relief, happy Haruka didn't end up back in the labyrinth. But there's no time to chill. The next wave of monsters is already bearing down on the city, and it's way bigger than anything they've seen before. If this wave hits the city, it's game over. Class rep turns to Haruka, desperate. You got a plan for this? Haruka nods. Yes, I've got a way to stop them. Angelica's the key. But there's no time for him to explain everything. Ofta jumps in, telling everyone to head for the teleportation gate and get back to the city fast. As they're running for the gate, class rep can't hold back her curiosity. She asks Haruka how he managed to beat all those powerful monsters and make it this far. Haruka shrugs, flashing a small grin. To be real, I couldn't have done it the usual way. Took some luck, some quick thinking, and fresh milk straight from the source to keep me going in the morning. The crew finally makes it back to the city and spots Godlike and the guildmaster chilling on a hill just outside. They're relieved their backup showed up. But Mariel points out something that kills the mood quick: the massive swarm of monsters heading their way. And when I say massive, I'm talking a sea of them. Even Haruka couldn't handle this many at once. Whatever hope the guildmaster had left gone. The city itself is shaking from the stomping of that monster army, and the Lord of Omi is inside the church, doing his best to keep the terrified townsfolk calm. He's telling them the adventurers are gonna save the day. But outside the city, the adventurers are losing their nerve. They've all but thrown in the towel. The stampede scale is just too overwhelming. That's when Haruka turns to Angelica. Time to do what we talked about. Angelica steps up without hesitation, walks ahead of everyone, and drives her sword straight into the ground. Suddenly, a wave of energy starts pouring out of the sword. Haruka breaks it down for everyone. Angelica might not be exactly how she was when they fought in the dungeon, but she's still the Dungeon Emperor. That means she's got total control over all the monsters from her dungeon. And as the Dungeon Emperor, she's got the power to erase every last one of them. The energy wave crashes into the monster army, and one by one, the monsters vanish until the whole swarm is gone. With the threat wiped out, Haruka walks up to Angelica with a big grin and hits her with a celebratory fist bump. But his classmates, they're looking at him like he just pulled a rabbit out of a hat. Haruka laughs and says, I didn't do a thing. You should be thanking Angelica. That's when Oda, one of the nerds, pieces it together. Figures out that Angelica must be the Dungeon Emperor legend. The rest of the group freaks out. Does that mean Angelica's a monster? Haruka shakes his head. I spent plenty of time with her in the dungeon. She's cool and don't talk too much like others. The group's skeptical, but since Haruka's vouching for her, they decide to trust him. Oda, though, he's got more questions. The Dungeon Emperor is supposed to be the strongest in the dungeon, right? Haruka rolls his eyes and smirks. Man, you're creepy for knowing all this random stuff. But you're spot on, Angelica doesn't rust easily. Even after her level got reset, Angelica's still insanely overpowered as a fighter. She straight up dominated every monster they ran into in the dungeon. Seeing how strong she was, Haruka figured she could probably use that power to command the monsters and deal with them in a way that didn't involve a huge fight. The catch is, Angelica's ability only works on monsters from her dungeon, and they have to be close by for it to kick in. So if there's another stampede from a different dungeon, this trick won't work. While they're talking about what she did, the girls ask if Angelica just vaporized the monsters. Haruka clears it up, no, they're still alive. All Angelica did was teleport them back to the dungeon and give them an order to stay put. Since that command came straight from the Dungeon Emperor herself, Haruka's confident those monsters aren't coming back anytime soon. That means the city of Omi is safe, at least for now, and life can finally chill out a little. The next day, Haruka gets a great idea for all the gear he hauled out of the dungeon. He spends some time organizing his inventory and asks class rep to round up all their classmates. When everyone shows up, they see a massive spread of treasure laid out on the tables, rare, valuable stuff that immediately gets them hyped. Haruka announces he's holding a super special sale just for them. They can pick whatever they want. But there's a catch, they still have to pay for it. The boys and girls are ready to compete for the best items. But as soon as the sale starts, the girls go full-on Christmas shopping frenzy. It's chaos, and the whole thing turns into a battlefield. Most of the guys are too intimidated to even get close, so Haruka feels bad for them. To even things out, he pulls out a stash of extra gear he wasn't planning to sell and offers it as a special deal just for them. After a while, everyone gets what they want and walks away happy with their purchases. Haruka's satisfied too. The new gear should help keep his classmates safe. But now he's got one last thing on his mind: what to do with Angelica. She'll be staying in town with everyone for a while, but after being isolated in the dungeon for so many years, Haruka's worried she might not be used to hanging out with people. Especially the other girls, he's not sure how well they'll all get along. Later on, Oda says Haruka was real generous for sharing his loot with the crew, but the girls' leader cuts in, reminding him they had to pay up for those goods. Inside the guild, Haruka's busy collecting his money when the class rep rolls up. She lets him know everybody's happy with what they bought. Haruka's cool with hearing that and asks if she got something she wanted. She nods and gives a shout out to Angelica too. Then she asks Haruka to introduce Angelica properly. Haruka steps up and says Angelica's not just some random skeleton, she's the emperor of the dungeon. The class rep raises an eyebrow and asks if Haruka used the pheromone ring to tame her. Haruka shrugs, saying he never found that ring. Then, looking a bit hesitant, he admits he used his servitude skill instead. Now the class rep's fired up, snapping at him for using a skill like that on a dungeon emperor. Haruka looks lost, saying he's not even sure how it happened. The class rep isn't buying it and figures he's dodging her. She grabs Angelica, deciding to get the story straight from her. Haruka watches them go, hoping Angelica's gonna be alright. The next thing we see, Angelica's surrounded by the girls in a room at the inn. Nobody's saying much, and the vibe in the room is straight up awkward. Finally, the girls' leader breaks the silence, asking the dungeon emperor if she's a dude. Angelica shakes her head, saying no, since it should have been obvious her name is Angelica. Another girl asks how old she is, and when Angelica says 17, the girls perk up. Turns out they're the same age, so they figure they might vibe with her. They start asking her to spill more about herself. Angelica hesitates, but the class rep takes her hand, telling her there's no rush and she can share whenever she's ready. After a bit of talking, the girls piece together that Angelica got stuck in the dungeon's darkness on the bottom floor until Haruka came through and saved her. The servitude skill he used, it broke the curse that had her trapped. Hearing this, the class rep softens up, saying they'll do their best to make her feel welcome here. The girls then hit the baths, deciding to take a soak together. The class rep hopes this'll help warm Angelica's heart too. She spots Angelica struggling to take off her armor. Seeing her stuck, she steps in to help, thinking all she'd find under the layers would be bones. But when the armor comes off, she's stunned. Angelica's got flesh on her bones. Curious, she talks it over with the other girls, and they decide to go all in and strip her completely to figure things out. When everything's off, they're floored to see a real flesh and blood human standing there. Later that night, we catch Haruka stretched out on his bed. He's running through the day, realizing he didn't find the pheromone ring, but the trip to the dungeon wasn't a total loss. He's hit 6 new levels, and his skills have gotten a solid boost. Checking his stats, he notices he's unlocked a new skill called Phase. Closing the stat window, he thinks back to how he couldn't stop the stampede without Angelica's help. It hits him he's gotta get stronger if he wants to handle things solo. With that in mind, he makes up his mind to head back to the forest. The next day, Haruka goes to the class rep to talk things out. Seeing him, she wonders if he's onto Angelica's secret. He tells her he's got business in the forest and asks if he can dip out for a while. She agrees, but only if he promises to come back. He's relieved, but then he notices Angelica seems to be fitting in with the girls in town. Feeling bad about leaving her behind, he asks if she wants to roll with him. She's down for it, but the class rep isn't feeling the idea of them heading out together. She's uneasy, worried he might catch onto Angelica's secret. When they're about to bounce, the class rep stops them, but she doesn't even know why she's so worked up about them being together. She brushes it off and switches gears, telling Haruka to treat Angelica right, and the two set off. Out in the forest, Haruka takes it all in: the breeze, the sun, the whole vibe. He's pumped, thinking it's the perfect setup to test out his new Phase skill. Feeling the moment, he challenges Angelica to a race back to his spot. With Phase in play, he takes off like a rocket, so fast that he ends up launching himself straight off a cliff. Haruka gets through using his airwalk skill. Angelica comes to the same cliff, but she slips and falls. Haruka grabs her just in time, though he notices she's heavier than you'd expect for someone who's supposedly all bones. Angelica gets flustered, being held in his arms like that. Later that night, we see Haruka relaxing in his bathtub. As he soaks, he jokingly asks Angelica if she wants to join him. He quickly adds he's just kidding, thinking she's still mostly bones and would find it awkward to bathe with a guy. But then, to his surprise, Angelica seems ready to hop in. The next thing, she's in the bath and Haruka freaks out, wondering who this blonde girl is. It takes him a second to realize it's Angelica. Both of them are instantly embarrassed. Afterward, they're sitting awkwardly on the bed, neither knowing what to say. Haruka feels like the tension's getting to him, so he asks if she can talk. Angelica tries but can't, and Haruka figures her time as a skeleton must have messed up her ability to speak. She starts gesturing to explain, and eventually, he pieces together what happened to her. Turns out, the Dungeon Emperor, who was an undead skeleton monster, cursed her. But when Angelica put on the silver armor, it restored her lost body so the curse could take hold. Then the blessed bangle kicked in, canceling the curse. After that, the necromantic orb and the luck-boosting pilgrim's ring brought her back to life completely. Haruka realizes all of this somehow happened because of him, and that's why Angelica has been sticking by his side. She nods to confirm it, and Haruka starts to worry. He thinks he might have taken away her freedom in the process. He tells her she's not a monster anymore and doesn't have to stay with him if she doesn't want to. She's free to go, but instead of being happy, Angelica starts crying. She hugs him tightly, pleading to stay. That's when Haruka realizes she doesn't want to be alone anymore. He decides to let her stay, at least for now. To cheer her up, he starts telling her a funny story. She gets really into it as he explains how he ended up in this world, chatting with her until she falls asleep. A few days roll by, and one morning Haruka asks Angelica to spar with him and not hold back. She's a bit confused, so he explains he's got a new skill he wants to try out. Angelica agrees to take him on. They get ready to face off, and Haruka thinks she's probably faster now compared to when they last fought, especially since she was under some dark influence back then. He's ready to tackle her speed with his phase skill. She lunges at him, but he manages to dodge her strike and the following hits. He's pretty pumped that he's got a decent grip on phase now, even though he feels like his weapons and skills are kind of trash. But Haruka's determined to keep getting stronger. He goes on the attack, but Angelica takes him down again. He's not shocked that he's still not on her level, but he's happy he's improving. He tells her that one day, he's going to be stronger than her. Feeling hungry, he decides to grab something to eat. They head to the lake, where Haruka uses some lightning magic to catch fish. As they walk back with their haul, he decides they're going to make hot pot instead of the usual grilled fish. Angelica isn't sure what that is, so Haruka figures it's better to show her than to explain. Cut to Angelica about to cut a fish, looking a bit lost. Haruka steps in, guiding her by the hand and showing her how it's done. They end up looking like a newlywed couple cooking together in the kitchen. They prepare the hot pot and dig in. Haruka's completely stuffed when they're done, and Angelica starts acting kind of suspicious. She pulls him into the bedroom, tells him to sit next to her, and gets real close, touching his shoulder. Haruka braces himself, but it turns out she just wants to give him a massage. Haruka figures she's trying to show some appreciation, so he goes along with it. Angelica starts the massage, but Haruka quickly notices she's pretty bad at it, missing all the good spots. Still, he stays quiet, knowing she's really trying her best. By the time she's done, he feels worse than before, but he fakes being okay. Angelica, however, isn't finished showing her hospitality yet. Haruka asks her to come outside with him, so they step out and settle on a bench, staring up at the stars. Haruka asks her, "Why are you sitting so far? Come closer." She gets shy and flustered. Haruka reaches out and pats her head, thinking this girl's a mess at everything except fighting. She tries to say something, but the words don't come out. That makes her feel down, so Haruka steps in to cheer, telling her, "Don't stress. I get what you're trying to say." Then he thinks about how Angelica keeps pushing herself to get better, and he figures he should do the same. He tells her let's head back to town tomorrow. She hesitates, unsure about it, but he reassures her, "Don't worry, I'll be right here." The next day, they're on their way to town when it starts pouring. Haruka grabs her hand, and they run together, racing to get out of the rain. They finally make it into town, and the rain clears up. At the square, Haruka spots his friends. They're thrilled to see the two of them back, and when they notice them holding hands, they comment on how close the two seem now. Both of them get embarrassed and quickly let go of each other's hands. The girls crowd around Angelica, asking her for details. The class rep steps in to free her from the group and welcomes her back. Meanwhile, the boys surround Haruka, questioning him about what happened between him and Angelica. They joke about how he might not stay a loner anymore. Haruka gets annoyed and waves them off. Angelica walks up to him, and he wonders why she isn't staying with the girls. He tells her not to worry about him, but she stays near him anyway and finally manages to thank him out loud. Haruka is surprised to hear her speak, and she returns to the girls. He reflects that after coming to this world, he has realized one thing: everyone has their own struggles and anxieties. Sometimes even being around others can feel suffocating, and people end up feeling lonely from the lack of freedom and comfort. In that way, everyone is a loner, but no one is truly alone. Even so, he decides to keep surviving on his own in this world. That wraps up the final episode. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to stay tuned for more. I'd love to hear what you think, so drop your thoughts in the comments.